Where are we unknowingly giving our power away to someone or something? And what if, when we stop focusing on what's broken, we reclaim our energy and ignite our purpose? And what if what we're fired up about, even outraged about, if we sit with, uncovers more about our purpose, where our passion and our joy and our place of service intersect? We'll be talking about this and more in today's episode of Our Waking Dream. I'm your host, Coco Swanson. This is a practical astrology podcast or show, depending on where you're listening to or watching. Each week, I go over one basic astrology theme that's moving through the time. I explain it ideally in a way that's beginner friendly, so let me know how I'm doing with that. And then I deduct practices. That's what I'm doing behind the scenes for my clients, my students, myself, is I use astrology as a map of the metaphor that's moving through the time period. And it indicates what inquiry questions, what awareness exercises, what somatic moves or dance moves best will help us move with the flow of energy versus what it feels like to me like flailing upstream. And so over on my website, I have a whole ecosystem of support. I have a free solutions lab that I'm doing every other week right now. My goal is to democratize my work, to make it more accessible. So I have free offerings like this one, the Solutions Lab. I have a membership platform. It's called Leadership Studio, where we're exploring how to bring awareness and bring coherency between our heart, our mind, and our soul into everything that we're leading, whether that be your life, your family, or at work. Anyways, there's a whole bunch of information for you over on my site, and I'm here in service. Today's episode, we're looking at a very charged astrological moment that astrologers have been talking about really for years. I imagine centuries, because astrology is quite old and we have a lot going on in the sky. It's July 26th right now, 2026, and I'm going to be talking about what's going on that's really loud in this upcoming full moon in Aquarius on July 29th. So if you're listening to this before the full moon, this is fantastic preparatory material for you to bring into ritual for the full moon. Yet if you're listening to this anytime during the season, or really anytime in life, it still has some gems, because right now we're going through a larger, longer transit with the outer planets. So let me do a play-by-play of what's going on. Let this be a wash if you're new to astrology, and if you've been studying it for a while, this will hopefully connect some of the dots of what's going on. And I assume if you've made it this far into this podcast that you're a highly sensitive person, and so you're probably already feeling this. So Pluto, the full moon in Aquarius conjuncts Pluto. Pluto is, from my perspective, one of the heaviest hitters in the whole zodiac. It commands our attention. It works through the collective unconscious, pointing out the wounds that we really can't bring forward. So the moon, the full moon, is illuminating Pluto. In a full moon, we always have the sun opposite the moon. That's just inherent in the full moon. So we've got the sun over there in Leo. And it's conjunct, in a loose conjunction, with Jupiter, illuminating this opposition between Pluto in Aquarius and Jupiter in Leo. It's also just illuminating the whole axis between, it's the opposites of Leo, of the heart, of courage, and Aquarius, which is of mind, it's of culture, it's of how we all work together. They're both tribal signs. It's both about how we are in community. So they're connected, but they're in opposites. One governs the heart, the other governs more of the mind, the collective mind, the collective nervous system. This is also important because the nodes, the North Node, which points to our collective dharma, where we can really focus to move the arrow, so to say, of our destiny, to really level up together. The nodes just moved. The North Node just moved from Pisces to Aquarius. And so that's another focus on Aquarius right now. Yet at the same time, Pluto in Aquarius is in a long-term trine with Uranus in Gemini, and a long-term sextile with Neptune in Aries. At the same time, there's trines and sextiles between the outer planets right now. We'll just say that. And it really creates a harmony. So any deep dive you do into the material that I talk about this week should really help you in lots of areas. That's an easy way to distill what harmonious relationships between outer planets means. And so we've got, at the same time, we have a freshly stationed direct Mercury and a very freshly stationed retrograde Saturn. And they're in a loose square. So they're engaged in a pretty feisty way with each other, we could say, or a very transformative way with each other. And we have Venus on this full moon on the 29th in an exact square with Mars. So that's a lot in itself. And at the same time, next month, August, is eclipse season. And eclipses are quantum reset buttons, where if we learn the lesson of the eclipse, we can jump timelines. Meaning if our trajectory is in one direction, we can shift it substantially during eclipse seasons. So altogether, gosh, if any one of these were happening by themselves, it'd be noteworthy. It'd be enough to offer this episode about. But together, this is an extraordinary, consequential moment. And what we focus on grows. And the more inner excavation and growth we do, the more outer change we experience. That's the core guiding principle of our waking dream. So what does this mean? Let's talk about Pluto. As Pluto is the heaviest hitter, it exposes the skeletons in our closet, the collective unconscious, that which is tethering us, that which is projected. So Pluto is always in the shadow. So it needs light in order to be discovered, illuminated, and transformed. Well, we bring something to light as humans by noticing what we're projecting into them. Them meaning your romantic partner, your friend, them meaning your boss or someone on your team, them meaning a governmental leader. We look for what infuriates us about them to point to the material that we're ready to bring to light within us and reconcile. That's just how Pluto works. But Pluto in Aquarius, it points at, all things shadow Aquarius. So what's Aquarius? Aquarius is the collective culture. It's looking at the indispensable nature of our individuality. It looks at our interdependence. It looks at technology and culture ethics. And so when we're looking at Pluto in Aquarius, we can look for what they are doing that outrages us, that's unfair and unjust. And that can indicate what our passions are, what we're protective of, what we love, which really points to what we're here to bring in service to the world. Our passion, our heart, and our service are very linked, and we can use what we're fired up about to indicate what we're passionate about. And that, to me, is the core teaching of this week, simplified. Because if we start to uncover our shadow and our wounds and start to bring them to light in a way that brings reconciliation, we activate our purpose and our power. Each one of us is silently contributing to every culture that we're a part of. Culture is oftentimes a collection of unspoken or invisible agreements that we make together and how we treat each other. And so how we treat each other in unjust and unfair ways, how we might be bullying ourselves and each other, oftentimes indicates brokenness in culture that's ripe and ready for change. How can we all contribute to change? And what if what's bothering us about them, what ways are we othering them? What bothers us about, you fill in the blank, your spouse, your friend, your colleague, reveals to us where our own life source, creativity, has been trapped, where our contribution is trapped. In this show, I always bring inquiry questions first, because when we build the inner witness, it allows for us to know what practices are indicated. And I'm going to start listing these questions in the description below, so you don't have to just rapidly take notes, so you can cut and paste them. So these all are based on the inquiry of how can we become a culture that we can get through this together. So where have you unknowingly handed your power to someone else or something else? And what feels most broken or most unjust in your life, in the cultures that you participate in your family, in your work, in the world? And what does your outrage or your frustration reveal that you're protective of, or reveal about what you love and you're passionate about? And if you had a magic wand, what would you repair? What would you restore in the cultures that you're a part of? And what small shift could you make today to enact the change that you'd like to witness? And this can be a micro shift to mirror a macro change. So say I'm fed up with the US government, which I am. Well, say I don't want to play a part of a fascist government that doesn't keep an eye on the underdog. Well, where can I be kinder to the underdog within myself and within everyone I meet within my family? So I take a question and an outrage that I'm pointing at them, and I bring it back to myself in small, manageable steps. So those are the inquiries that I suggest that you bring into your journaling this week. And again, I'll post those below. Practice number 2 I suggest this week is an outrage compass. This is an awareness exercise to bring into communication with you, but especially to start to talk about within your community. Because what if what fires us up the most, what angers and infuriates us, points to what we're here to love and nurture and protect. What if our outrage can ignite our service? By following the thread of our outrage and our frustration, we can illuminate that which we're passionate about and offer it our imagination. Because right now, our imagination, I'm sure if you're fired up, if you're angry about something, it's oftentimes consuming our imagination, but in worst case scenario imagination. So if we illuminate what we're infuriated about, that can help us uncover what we're passionate about in order to reignite our imagination of best case scenarios. Step one of this is to recruit a buddy to do this with. You can share this podcast with them. You can just share the exercise. You notice together what fires you up, what consistently gets you angry, what feels unjust in any culture that you're a part of. So culture can be you and you, the atmosphere within yourself, or you and one other, you and your sweetheart, you and a friend, you and your work team, your city, your country. What fires you up in the world? And why? Why does this matter so much to you? What do you feel protective of? For instance, like at home. So how about at work? Maybe things don't feel fair, like there are equal opportunities for people. Or perhaps you're really fired up at what's going on politically. What's going on in relation to, say, housing crisis or global warming. I get really fired up protecting and being sad about what's happening for animals. You know, what fires you up? Well, whatever fires you up indicates that which you love and protect the most. So then the next step is to imagine best case scenarios instead. So what does it feel like to be a part of a culture in your family in which we can easily speak truth and be heard? Or at work, what's equality feel like? What would that feel like for you? What does a just world feel like for the animals if you feel protective of animals? So just simply to notice with you and your buddies what you're fired up about, talk about it, deduct what's the least just and the most unfair, and then to imagine like waving a full-on magic wand and solutions landing in ways that cause you equally as much joy as you had outrage. That's how we can allow our outrage to be a compass, to direct us to our place of service. Is we use our outrage to uncover that which we're passionately protective of. And we imagine best case scenarios impacting everything that we care about. And they might be full on fantasies that we have no idea how they'd come true, but at least we're feeding that. And imagination creates reality, creates culture over time. Practice number 3 I suggest is about healing the inner bully. And this can be done again with another or on your own. Essentially, any time we quiet our own voice, diminish our light, or diminish another, we're quieting the life force that's moving through us. I don't know about you, but I wasn't trained to overtly and loudly celebrate myself. That wasn't humble. So I suggest that we drop humility for a minute and instead we focus on celebrating ourselves and celebrating each other, to strengthen our light, to build cultures just through ourselves and each other and how we are together, in which we celebrate, yes, celebrate the courageous moves of our heart. And how do we do this? Step one, we notice the inner bully. The inner bully might happen when you imagine saying something important to someone you love and you just critique yourself, or you imagine that you're going to, post something or lead in a new courageous way. And there's a yeah, but, or a, oh, you're not good enough for that. Or an external bully is you imagine that you say something and that you're trolled online for it. There's an example of bullies. Like that, if you are vulnerable in the world and there's an internal or an external voice that shoves you back down, that's the bully that we want to keep an eye on. Step two, notice, what is your bully protecting you from? If you're not speaking your truth, are you afraid of rejection? Rejection, I find, is one of the main reasons that we quiet our light, that we fear being misunderstood or pushed aside or rejected. Step three, what is quieted within you when you stop shining your light? What is just authentically amazing about you? Can you count at least 5 to 10 things that are authentically just amazing about you? And they might be simple. That is step 4, to celebrate, to do the opposite, to practice being your own cheerleader, even if it's super cheesy, to practice anytime you do something courageous, you step out into the limelight, you reveal more of yourself, that you celebrate yourself and you start celebrating others. And we do this in community with each other. And so we create an atmosphere where we can be more vulnerable with who we authentically are. And through that process, our authenticity starts to build and our contribution starts to build. Yeah? Okay, so that brings us to the end of today's episode. These are big times. Please be in contact with me. I have on my other YouTube channel, on just Coco Swanson. Please remember to review this, to subscribe if you're on YouTube, to comment and like. That's what gives it wings as I step out into my authentic place of service to help bring about transformation to anyone who is in need and in desire of it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. I will see you next week. Until then, mwah. Thank you for being a part of our community here at Our Waking Dream. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Fill my cup and let it overflow. Let it overflow with love.